Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Game of Thrones podcast. I'm your host, Carmine of Red Team Review, and I'm joined here once again by Mr. Preston Jacobs.
By Carmine of Red Team Review. I'm Carmine of Red Team Review. We're the same person.
There was a crazy person who once thought that. They are long gone now, thank God.
Okay.
So today we're going to be talking about episode 3 and 4. But even then, with episode 3, I feel like we've discussed that ad nauseum because we did the pre-show, after-show, then our own reviews. And the only thing that really stood out from that episode was the random prophecy thing from the innkeeper woman who came back and followed them.
Well, I'd say episode 3 and 4 are quite different in the sense that episode 3, with the exception of the ending, which of like Dunk going off and having a drink with Raymond Fossaway, he has wine in the short story as cider in the show, a welcome change considering it's the fucking Fossaways. But he goes, and then the fight with Aegon, like and I suppose the Aegon's stabbing the horse and everything. But other than those scenes, it was almost all original scenes that were not in the short story.
Right.
As I say, it was a lot of killing time. Not necessarily in a bad sense. We had a lot of great bonding between Dunk and Egg. But the difference with episode 4 is all of those scenes, every single scene is from the book. Things are shifted around and changed. Lines are changed. Lines from one person are given to another. Don't get me wrong. But every single scene is from the short story. And that's what's very different is that one was a killing time thing where they're like, oh, we've got too many episodes. Let's have some bonding between Dunk and Egg and have some foreshadowing and stuff. And versus like, this is the story. This is the short story that we're putting to screen.
Right, and I actually quite liked episode 3, even though a lot of it was original. There were some decisions I would have made differently. For example, Robin Risling shows up in the beginning. I would have had another character show up as well throughout some other time, like maybe Beesbury or Harding. But I guess Harding shows up and he gets his leg crushed, so that's fine, I guess. I also wish Dunk, towards the end of the episode, before he goes in for a cup of cider with Raymond Fossaway, I kind of wish he... instead of just looking at Plumber and just ignoring him, I kind of wish he just told him, no, I don't want to do it. Because I get that the purpose of that scene is to make him like a very honorable person. I would rather him outright say that he wasn't going to do it instead of him just kind of having a discussion about it.
Yeah, it's hard to say. It's hard to say because, I have so many feelings about book Dunk versus show Dunk. Like, I think book Dunk would definitely have taken the deal. I don't know about show Dunk. They're different characters. But book Dunk is definitely like looking for a leg up in life and is very focused on looking for a leg up in life. And something as small as that.
We discussed this briefly because you keep saying that book Dunk is very poor. Show Dunk is very generous with his money. We were having this discussion off recording about like how poor people are very generous, but rich people...
Well, this is... you can make that argument that poor people are so generous, are more generous than rich people. This is why rich people are rich, because they're misers, and poor people are poor is because they're not misers. But I would argue that it does change the story a bit, especially when we're going into episode 4 where Steely Pate gives the shield to Dunk for a copper. And that's a very meaningful gesture in the short story where Dunk is watching every copper versus in the show where he's partying and hanging out with rich people and eating eggs and bacon and paying for cups of ale for Egg and paying for fortune tellers and shit. Like, it just doesn't seem as significant a gesture when you take away Dunk's poverty. It's just kind of nice, oh, okay. But like it's the short story, he's always talking about the price of everything and how much money he has, and he's very concerned with money. So like when Steely Pate gives him something for a copper, that's a huge deal. That's a huge deal for a poor man, you know. So, but yeah, it's just little differences like that.
Real quick on episode 3. 2 things. The first thing I wanted to bring up real quick was the fortune-telling thing. So, again, I hit up Elio Garcia. He believes that the whole Lannister thing, that was just something the fortune-teller just says, just to say it.
Yeah.
And then the egg prophecy thing, that was legit. Someone in my Discord server brought it to me like, well, do you think that maybe Dunk would be richer than a Lannister because we know that Ser Duncan the Tall has 4 full pages in the White Book of the Kingsguard, and Jaime has a paragraph. So
that's stupid.
That's stupid? Really?
That's stupid.
You think so?
Yeah, that's just like, you know, that's like maybe the friends were, maybe the richness were the friends that we made along the way. Like, no, that's clearly not what they fucking mean. Like, you're just like, at that point, like, prophecy means nothing if it can mean everything. You know, like, you just want to fucking make it work like that? Fine.
Well, don't we have instances of that several times in the main story? For example, the maid with venomous vipers in her hair, or that same maid in a castle made of snow defeating a giant.
Yeah. I mean, but at least those are, you know, I don't know. They like. That seems closer for some reason. I mean, I think when you're all of a sudden saying like deeds in the White Book being richer than a Lannister is a real metaphorical jump.
What about Dunk being richer than a Lannister in the sense where we all know Lannisters are incredibly rich money-wise, but Dunk would be richer in other ways, like love from a family and, you know, friends and whatnot and accomplishments?
Do we know if Dunk has that many friends, you know? I mean, I suppose you could argue in a show sense and a show only sense that Dunk cares about the legacy of Sir Arlen, and that in that sense, Arlen's legacy is capital, and so he ends up having a long legacy in the White Book, and therefore Sir Arlen of Pennytree would have a long legacy, you know, and so he ends up rich in that sense. But it's just really pushing it. You're just really, really pushing it. That's just
I'm just trying to play a devil's advocate here.
You're not supposed to think about it that much. Like, you're just not.
No? Okay.
You're supposed to be focused on egg and not focused on Dunk.
Gotcha.
Like, the Dunk part is irrelevant. Like, she's just like, you know, you're going to be rich. Ha, ha, ha. Well, he's not. But, and then this is significant, you know.
Gotcha.
That's all. But you're just supposed to be focused
But Dunk did marry eventually.
We don't know. I do not know.
I swear I read that somewhere, that he was allowed to marry and have a kid, I think. Or at least allowed to marry.
We do not know. What we know is that it's been heavily hinted that Brienne is a descendant of Duncan the Tall. Now, why she's a descendant? I mean, you know, does she have an ancestor who's a bastard? Does she have an ancestor who's secretly a bastard? We don't know. Keep in mind that bastardy is not inherited. If you're the child of a married bastard, you're not a bastard. So, you know, just because Brienne is trueborn does not mean every single one of her parents were trueborn. Like, you know, so Dunk can have a child. We you know, it seems heavily implied that Dunk is a child, but we have no idea who
we don't know the full extent of the story. The reason I'm putting a bit more effort into the whole, like, him being richer than Lannister, and maybe it's because of friends and family and whatnot, is because George apparently went with Ira Parker through a lot of their life, and maybe he told Ira Parker that over time Dunk might have like a whole thing where throughout his journey he has lots of friends and maybe a family along the way, and, you know, so and so forth, yada yada. Maybe Ira Parker put that line in there to with all that information in mind, maybe, I don't know.
I mean, it's certainly possible. We have nothing. We can't prove the negative. There's nothing to say that Dunk wasn't married and then she doesn't die. What we know is that a Kingsguard can't have wives, so you could conceivably be a widow, and be in the Kingsguard.
Right, but there's also been exceptions, like Lewin Martell had his paramour when he was Kingsguard.
Right.
It really depends on how cool your brothers are about it and how cool the king is about it. So,
but you can't be married in the Kingsguard.
Of
you
course.
could conceivably be a widow. So if Dunk got married and then his wife died, then maybe he can join the Kingsguard. But you just got to look at the kind of period of time and everything and try to figure it out. I don't know. It's possible. It's possible.
Sure.
He's got a long life. The two of them have a long life. Like I say, Egg is 59 at Summerhall. So it's just, Dunk is going to be in his 60s. So
the one thing I will say in regards to Dunk's friends is that he seems to make them very naturally. And I like that Ira Parker did that. Like, Raymond Fossaway and Lionel Baratheon really don't have reasons to like this guy, but it's more believable in this television show that they're friends with Dunk, and they're going out of their way to hang out with him. Because Raymond comes up to him and is like, so Duncan, would you like a cup of cider? We make it ourselves. Yeah. He's inviting him to hang out and all that stuff. Right. So,
in fact, as we were saying, the one of the strengths of the show is that there's more time to get to know the characters. And it's one of the weaknesses of the short story is that, we don't really get to know Egg, and then the people the characters just show up at the fucking trial the trial by combat, the trial of 7, and we literally know none of them. We barely know. It's not like the show. We don't know Lionel Baratheon. We don't know Beesbury. We don't know Harding, other than the fact that he broke his leg.
Actually, not true.
We know Raymond.
We know that either Lionel Baratheon throws the greatest fucking parties and everybody wants to be there, or there's just no other fucking knights in this goddamn tourney. It's a blink and you'll miss it moment, but Humphrey Harding is there partying with Beesbury at Lionel Baratheon's tent in the first episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So,
well, yeah. But the thing is, and this is a weakness of the short story, not every character is even given motivation, to be there. Okay, so Humphrey Harding breaks his leg, so he wants revenge. And Humphrey Beesbury is I think, by marriage related to Humphrey Harding, and so he just kind of joins and is like, yeah, okay. And then Lionel wants the glory for himself. Raymond is friends with Dunk and is super pissed off. It's more that he's super pissed off at his cousin, so it's like everybody has their kind of weird, not very good reasons for joining. Really, Baelor is the only one that has a good reason for joining. Baelor is the only one that is really there for morally pure reasons. But, we don't really get Robin Reisling's motivation, or Beesbury or Lionel, other than the fact a single throwaway line, oh yeah, you got to be part of this glory. We got to have all the glory or whatever. Or, oh, I agree. What they did to the puppeteer was bad. The thing is, there's plenty of time and opportunity to just in that Raymond scene where he invites him to Dunk to have cider. He could have easily just been hanging out with Beesbury and been like, oh, this is blah, blah, Beesbury. Let's go get some cider. And then throw in a few lines to Beesbury. That's all. And then good enough. Now he's there. I
don't want to get ahead of ourselves with episode 4, but Beesbury gets no lines at all. In episode 4, when Dunk goes to the point where he has to suit up and do the thing, Humphrey Harding says I'm here for revenge on Aegon. Fuck him. Okay, decent reason. Robin Risling. Yeah. Robin Risling will give his life for the crown, but when the crown goes against the gods, Robin Risling sides against the crown. Okay, religion. Fair. Beesbury? Fuck you. Thanks for showing up, though. He gets no lines. Killer dance moves, but no lines.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to ask you briefly, because I think we went over the prophecy thing real quick. People have been arguing back and forth. Does this mean that Egg will become like crazy, yada yada? That's something I want to discuss with Elio Garcia, since he had a hand.
I mean, I think it's pretty. Yeah, I'd say it's a 99% chance that Dunk is going crazy. Yeah, I think it's.
You mean Egg is going crazy?
It's just. Yeah, Egg is going crazy. Yeah, I think it's
I still would rather
chance
get Elio in on the conversation. So, because we discuss it ad nauseum,
Sure.
I'd like his thoughts on it.
But it's just like, okay, you go through the list of Targaryens and you go, okay, let's just even start with the ones we know very well. We know Aerion is fucking bonkers and thought he was a dragon. We know Aerys the First is obsessed with prophecy. We know Bloodraven is obsessed with prophecy. We know Daeron is plagued by dreams. And then you go like later generations. We know the Mad King is obsessed with prophecy and is insane. We know Rhaegar is obsessed with prophecy. We know Dany gets dreams. We know Viserys was fucking crazy.
To be fair with Dany, it feels like everyone's giving her a fucking prophecy every other week. So her going crazy with prophecy,
Yeah.
I wouldn't blame her. Holy shit.
Yeah, we know Maester Aemon was obsessed with prophecy. So like, finding a Targaryen who was not either crazy or obsessed with prophecy is a heavy lift. We got Baelor, and Maekar. We got Baelor and Maekar are like the only Targaryens that we really need to know that have no interest in that.
Is there a book where Dany goes without having at least one prophecy or encountering one magic user? Because the first one, it's the Miri Mazdor, and then the second one, it's the Warlocks. What happens in Storm? Does she get a prophecy in Storm? Because I know she gets one from Quaithe, and I think Dance.
Well, Quaithe visits her in Storm.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought it was Dance, where she's.
Well, she visits her in Dance. She visits her in Dance too. She gets visited.
Which one is the one where she gives him the perfume seneschal?
That's in Dance.
Okay,
but I mean, it's more direct and obvious in Dance. Storm is a little more subtle, but she does have strange dreams of shady characters. This is in her head. This is right before she has her lesbian scene with Eerie and things like that. But yes, she does have strange dreams in Storm as well. But to answer your question, if you're going for a book that has the least amount of it, it's Storm. But she definitely has like dreams of like half remembered nightmares and things like that, where she does weird shit.
The other thing I wanted to bring up, by the way, was, because I know I don't have you for too long, is people were arguing whether or not Aerion had the right to do what he did, because even in peacetime, a dragon being slain show to the people, that would be like going to Winterfell and doing a puppet show where, I saw someone say this, where direwolves are being killed. It's incredibly disrespectful. Obviously, he was way out of line doing what he did, but some people, I see the conversation in the fandom that they don't blame him for getting pissed off. What's your take on that?
I mean, I think a similar thing happens in A Clash of Kings with regards to a puppet show. Varys reports on a puppet show, I believe, in one of them. And let me see here.
Feast for Crows.
That's what I'm talking about. Is that Game of... It's in Feast?
I think Cersei 5.
Is it Qyburn?
No, Your Grace. At the end, the dragon hatches from an egg and devours all of the lions. The ending took the puppet show from a simple insolence to treason.
Yep, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, Cersei 5.
So the fact that like they do something like that, that's pretty obvious. I think she leaves them alive only as bait
What will be done
to
with them,
catch
if I may be
whoever-
so bold? Any man of substance shall be fined. Half their worth should be sufficient to teach them a sharp lesson and refill our coffers, without quite ruining them. To those too poor to pay can lose an eye for watching. For the puppets, the axe. For the puppeteers, the axe.
So she does kill him, yeah. Yeah, so she does
Some
kill
of them.
him, yeah. But Cersei's crazy, right? So
is Aegon.
So is Aerion, right. But at the same time, like, no one thinks... I guess people generally don't think that this is that bad of a... I mean, that kind of ruling is too crazy, you know, right? So, yeah, I mean... what's weird and stupid about Aerion's action is that this is clearly Serwyn of the Mirror Shield, one of the most famous stories in Westeros. Like, Serwyn is talked about all the time as like the greatest of knights. They're always like Serwyn of the Mirror Shield, Ryan Redwine, Aemon the Dragon Knight. He is in the top 3. It's the top 3 stories. So what's weird is that he's taking some very, very famous tale and reading treason in it. When if this were a unique tale like Cersei sees, and the meaning is very obvious and treasonous, like it is in Cersei's situation. I mean, it's weird to call crazy Cersei somewhat reasonable in this, but that was a treasonous play. And where the message is, you know, pretty clear. While Serwyn of the Mirror Shield, like, come on, it's just Serwyn of the Mirror Shield. Like, it's like putting on a performance of Hamlet and a politician today being like, whoa, you're being against our administration, when it's just Hamlet and you're playing it straight. I mean, it's true that like their garb was a little Dornish, but yeah.
I think that the fact that the small folk rioted and tensions are high with the Targaryens, and now all of a sudden you have this play being put on for those same small folk that did rioted, that wanted to cut his fucking head off for that foul play during the tourney. I can see why Aerion would want to shut that down.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, obviously the riot, it being a show only thing, but yeah.
That being said, this whole thing being a show only thing, we went back and we watched episode 4 again today, and you had some thoughts regarding the differences between Baelor, Maekar, and Aerion, and how they know what a Trial of the Seven is, but Maekar seems to not. Can I give you my thoughts on why? Okay,
yes. So what we're talking about is, in the book, only Dunk doesn't know what a Trial by 7 is. He, you know, so everyone explains it to him after, like, it's suggested. After Aerion suggests the Trial by 7, Maekar's pissed off. He's like, "What? You don't think you can take this kid one-on-one? Like, why do you have to do Trial by 7?" And Aerion's like, "I gotta bring in Daron. That's the whole thing. And he's like, "Okay, well."
That's bullshit. Well, we all know the real reason is clearly he could not take Dunk.
He's a coward.
Like, that and Dunk is way too fucking tall. Like, taller than him and bulkier as well. Homie's kind of built like a linebacker, so I would hesitate to fight this fucking guy.
Sure. Even though Aerion does do a pretty good job in taking out Dunk by himself in the actual trial by combat. But I mean, it's a near thing. Dunk gets kind of lucky. But regardless, in the show, they decide to give Maekar a line of what the fuck is a Trial by 7, which is ridiculous considering that Maegor the Cruel participated in a Trial by 7. It was a big part of the Faith Uprising war, a very significant event in Targaryen history.
But did you notice how when the Trial of the Seven took place, it took place easily over 100 years. But the characters in the show keep saying, I think 2 characters, Lionel and someone else, says it's been about 100 years since the last Trial of the Seven. This takes place in 209 or 208, and I think pretty sure a Trial of the Seven easily took place over 150 some odd years before the start of our story. Maybe I'm just being a little too nitpicky.
Why aren't they rounding up? Yeah.
Well, sure, but you know, maybe another Trial of the Seven happened after Maegor? Like, maybe, and George hasn't written about it yet, or maybe something happened around...
It's certainly possible, though, you know, obviously it's... Obviously, it's a little funny that like someone would write Fire and Blood and something as significant as a Trial by Seven, like that happened around 100 AD or 100 after Conquest. You know, around the time of Jaehaerys' death and Viserys taking power. Like it's a little odd that wouldn't be mentioned. But then again, none of the events of Rime Redwine, none of the deeds of Rime Redwine are in the fucking Fire and Blood either, which is ridiculous. Okay, the great, like one of the top 3 greatest knights of all time, and they write a history book and nothing is fucking mentioned about Rime Redwine and what he did. Yeah, that's fucking insane. So yeah, it's quite possible they eliminated. He just didn't write about a Trial by Seven that happened around 100 AC rather than 42 AC.
To be fair, Fire and Blood only covers Targaryen history. Every now and then they dip their toe into like something else. Like in Fire and Blood, we have a story about one of the Starks of Winterfell going off beyond the wall and like getting completely obliterated by giants and then like coming back.
Right,
so every now and then they do dip their toe into something else, but there could have been a Trial by Seven.
You know, the Alyssa Farman, Corlys, Velaryon.
Right.
He throws it in when he wants to. He throws it. It's a meandering. It's a meandering mess, yeah.
Sure, there could have been another Trial by Seven that didn't happen with the Targaryens involved. That could have happened in like the Reach or the Westerlands, Riverlands, whatever.
Right, something like that, yeah.
In regards to Maekar not knowing that,
I mean that would be more sensible and make more sense. That would be more sensible and make more sense than nothing being listed about what Rime Redwine did, which is by itself ridiculous. Like Rime Redwine's a Kingsguard. He's around the Targaryens all the time. His incredible deeds should have been detailed in Fire and Blood. They weren't. But yeah, there might have been a Trial by Seven. There might have been a Trial by Seven around 180 AD that didn't involve the Targaryens. Yeah, absolutely.
So in regards to Maekar not really knowing in the show, to me this makes sense because it highlights 2 things. And maybe I'm reading into it with Aerion, but it highlights 2 things. The first is that obviously, Baelor would know, because it highlights Baelor's character knowing more than everybody else, because of course he does.
Sure, but then you've got Aerion.
Oh, right, and how does Aerion know? I assume because Aerion is obsessed with Targaryen history, and he clearly knows about Maegor and the Trial of the Seven. If there's one character that Aerion...
If they wanted the line, they should have just given it to Ashford. They should have just given it to Lord Ashford. And he could be like, what the fuck's a Trial by Seven? You know, if they really wanted another person being confused. But Maekar was a poor choice.
They set up Maekar not really knowing as much, or they set up Baelor knowing more than his brother in episode 2 when Maekar goes, you remember a fucking Hedge Knight who happened to unseat Daemon Lannister? And even Baelor says, yeah, I happen to know, his whole shtick is that he knows more than the average person. He has to. He has to be like...
Sure.
Right.
But Aerion also knowing more than the average person now makes Maekar look like a fucking idiot.
Because Aerion is quite clearly a Targaryen supremacist, and of course he would know about the one king, Maegor the Cruel, who was all about Targaryen supremacy, who had that Trial of the Seven. I'm 100% certain in this show that Aerion is a fan of Maegor the Cruel, who was all about Targaryen supremacy. Of course he would know about it. Of course he would call for one. Especially after that riot. Especially after.
Yeah, but Maekar is also honor obsessed, and knowing about like his family's history and honor would be a big part of his personality too. So
it's funny because they still see themselves as far attached from the Andal culture, even though they've been in the country for 200 plus years at this point. So
I think one of them says like, "Oh, Andal tradition" or something.
Right?
Isn't there some line like that? Yeah.
That's where I'm going with this.
And you're like, Andal tradition, one that had a major that was significantly part of Maegor the Cruel's like reign. Okay. But all right. You know, like
the other thing about Baelor, by the way, that it changed his character. This is what I was telling you earlier, and I realized this. This changes the small folk rioting in episode 3 changes his character in the sense where in the short story, he joins Dunk's side because that's pretty much the right thing to do. Morally the right thing to do, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
That's not what he did here. Baelor had no choice but to join Dunk's side. I'll tell you why. When the change regarding the small folk...
Oh, you think it was the popular position.
Well, in the books, he takes Dunk's side because he knows it's the right thing to do. In the show, it opens up something else. He somewhat has to take Dunk's side because when you look at it from an outsider's perspective, this whole trial of 7, it's the Targaryens, plus Stefan, versus a guy who protected the innocent and other Westerosi/Andal knights. This looks bad on the Targaryens. There needed to be a Targaryen on Dunk's side.
If this were a world with good communication and, people filming stuff and putting it on TikTok, maybe. But like this, realistically, had no one come forward and they said, "Oh, well, Dunk, I guess you don't." No one came forward. Your crime was not your cause was not seen as just enough, and they behand him or kill him or whatever they would do. And that would be the end of it. And the story would spread like, oh, this one guy hit a prince and then got his hand and foot cut off, or this one guy hit a prince and was executed. Not enough people supported him. He was pathetic. Rather than, oh my God, this person came to the defense of a Dornish puppeteer and selflessly defended a Dornish puppeteer. And that's the other thing is you got to remember, he's defending a Dornish woman. Like the Seven Kingdoms are racist against Dornish people. Baelor is not, because Baelor's mother is Dornish. So like, while the rest of the world doesn't give a fuck, you defended it like some like Dornish slut. Like that's honestly what someone from the outside would think. They'd be like, oh, a Dornish slut was putting on a treasonous puppet show.
The first off, the small folk really don't make much sense. I don't understand what Ira Parker was thinking, because he has the small folk riot because, okay, Targaryens, everyone kind of hates them, fine. But then when Dunk kicks this guy in the fucking mouth... I think he's totally thinking of your idea. I think he's totally thinking of justifying Egg's uber desire for eggs. That his uber desire for dragons. No, of course.
As like, I need to get them to reestablish Targaryen control. Yeah.
What I was trying to say is that the small folk make no sense in the sense where in episode 3 they riot over Aryen's foul play, and then when they see, most of them are there when watching Dunk kick this guy in the face. Yet they remove the scene from the books where the small folk start congratulating him, like "Good luck, may the warrior give you strength, or father give you strength, whatever." I don't know why Ira Parker removed that scene, because he just gets laughed at. When he is pleading for help from anyone who would join up with his cause, the guy stands up, the Brood of Bracken, by the way, stands up, farts, and the entire crowd is just like laughing at him. Like, why?
Yes.
Like, I'm kind of defending you guys, yet you're yelling.
You're right. And it's completely in a sense, Steely Pate's generosity is supposed to represent the small folks' opinion. That like, okay, actually this was a fucking just cause. And Steely Pate, like, he's doing his part by giving him a free shield. Right? And he's the small folk. And so, yeah, when the lords individually are like, you know what, I don't know you, it shows their individual cowardice. And you get this big separation between small folk and lords, right? Which is and poverty and wealth, which is a huge part of the short story. You're absolutely right. And you're absolutely right that the Brood of Bracken farting and everyone laughing, that laughing is a sort of, I mean, it's not even tacit. It's right there. It's said. They're all with the Brood of Bracken being like, ha ha, his cause is ridiculous. His cause is to be farted at. They all laughed with the Brood of Bracken at Dunk.
It was the dumbest change.
I completely agree with you.
This is why I know what you're saying. There's no TikTok or Twitter here. Still, like for Baelor, there are a lot of people there. The optics needs to be that there has to be a Targaryen on Dunk's side to show the masses that Not all of them are terrible. And I think Baelor knew that. And so in the sense, it kind of changes, in my opinion, his reasoning for being there. For Baelor's, because in the short story, he's there because it's morally the right thing to do. Here, it's optics.
In the short story, Baelor is unequivocally loved by everybody. Mm-hmm. He is Ferris Bueller. Everyone loves Baelor. The jocks, the nerds, the druggies, they all fucking adore him. Okay. And so when he goes forward for Dunk's cause, it is pure motivation. Unless, I mean, the only, you could possibly read that he's very interested in his sibling rivalry, and he wants to fucking stick it to Maekar. Like, that could also be possible. But you're supposed to see it as, you're also supposed to see it as it's a pure motivation. You know, but it has nothing to do with like wanting to have a better rule or maintain Targaryen control. He's universally loved, you know,
in the short story. But in the show, I think it adds,
the short story.
In the show, it adds that little wrinkle. It's just Baelor. In my opinion, it's not him doing it. Maybe it is him doing it because it's the morally the right thing to do, but also strategically, it's a good thing to do. The fact that this guy who will be king someday, he shows up to take a cause of someone defending the innocent. That is something you want to be seen doing.
Yeah, I mean, the political element, because it's such in the forefront of the show and is not present in the short story. I mean, you have to consider it, you know. I because the lines are all taken from the book, I don't know if they are putting much thought into it, but I do agree with you that they've made the Targaryen political situation such a huge aspect of the plot, or episode 3 did, at least, that it's hard to divorce that now from any decision that Baelor makes. Like, in the short story, the only things that are brought up are, is it a truly just cause, and the brothers sibling rivalry. Those are the two things you could possibly think about with Baelor. And that's it. But now there's this political element, you know.
Well, before we wrap this up, I mean, I think we were both in agreement when we saw it weeks ago, and we just saw it again today. Holy fuck, man! Why you can't? I just showed you the clip of Ira Parker saying he cut out another fart joke from the show. I think we were both in agreement.
Yeah, he cut out another shit joke. Yeah, no, yeah, it was straight up like people falling in a pile of shit. Yeah,
I think we're both in agreement that they ruined one of the most hype moments of the book with the "Are there no true knights among you" speech by having that fart in there. Why?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why? Yeah. I don't get it. Like, absolutely. Why would you do that?
I know. I mean, and it's not that what Ira Parker says isn't true, because he fully says, like, come on, guys, I have like 3 poop jokes in the entire series, and it's true. He has 3 poop jokes in the entire series, but it's such prominent places that they take so much power, you know.
I just don't see. Yeah. I don't see the point, and like maybe I'm just being too serious about it. Maybe I just need to have a sense of humor. I don't know. It's just, that's never been funny to me. Even as a kid, I never understood it. It's never been funny to me. I know, because he actually says, like, who doesn't love a poop joke? And it's like, everybody thinks they're dumb. Like, everybody thinks they're beneath, the poop jokes are beneath them. Who doesn't love it? Everybody hates it. Everybody hates poop jokes. No, and like, look, he's put together a great show. He's done a great job. He put in a lot of hard work, and for the most part, he created a really great show. But yeah, had he cut out the poop humor, it would be much better. Come on. well, here's the thing: the changes are so jarring, because you're right. It's almost like putting page to show, because there's a lot of stuff here. Like, most of it's from the book. But then the changes, like removing the small folk, congratulating him, having them be very antagonistic to him. Yeah. The Brood of Bracken, like being an asshole for no reason.
It's amazing. Yeah, I mean, that's like say, like, from the beginning, I've been saying it's almost astounding how you can have nearly every scene be identical and still miss all of the thematic beats because of a small change here or a small change here, completely reversing everything, you know? Like I say, you know, when you as you said, you add a couple scenes about people hating Targaryens, and then all of a sudden Baelor's motivations are different. You know, everything changes when you do something like that. You know, you remove one line and have everybody laugh at the brood of Bracken's farts. You've now shifted everybody's motivations with the small folk and who they support. You know, Dunk is no longer the sweetheart of the small folk because everyone laughed at him. You know, it's these very small changes, but can have huge thematic effects.
Like a butterfly flapping its wings, and then all of a sudden...
I guess, but it's so strange because it's like the events are all the same, but you've changed everyone's motivation.
That's true.
You know,
is there anything about the episode you wanted to bring up before we wrap this up? Because again, not a bad episode. It's just I kind of wish you didn't take out certain things. But is there anything about the episode that you wanted to point out?
No. I mean, this is kind of the most fascinating one because, like I say, this is the one where they attempt to follow the short story as closely as they can in episode 4, but because of very small changes and additional scenes earlier, everything is different. You know, like I say, like Lionel Baratheon showing up. Okay, it's kind of ridiculous, right? It's kind of ridiculous when Dunk is like. They're like, do you have any friends? And he's like, I don't know anybody. I know nobody. And you're like, I'm sorry. What? Did you not party in a tent and have a fucking tug of war and then party in a tent again? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, you've had several scenes with you've had, you know, with Lionel Baratheon. And they could have easily fixed it. He could have just said, Lionel Baratheon, but that's only one. You know, he could you could have just changed the scene to that, you know, and it would have been fixed. Like it would have taken such minimal effort. He's talking about his life here. He's about to die, and he is very clearly panicked. Okay, like this is not like, oh, I don't want to trouble you. Excuse me. Oh, I don't want to trouble Lionel. No, he's panicked. He's going to die. He is going to die, and he is like emotionally at the end of his rope. Of course, all you had to do is add possibly Sir Lionel Baratheon, but that's only one. Like that's it. That's it. Instead of no, I have no one. You know, like, okay, well, and so all of a sudden, like Stefan Fossway is like, yes, I know Lionel Baratheon, I'll ask him. And you're like, well, fuck, like, I'm sorry, how many scenes do we have of Stefan Fossway partying with Lionel Baratheon? Yeah, goose egg, you know, but we've got all these fucking ones with Dunk. Like, it makes no fucking sense anymore.
Honestly, okay? I'm surprised like, that you aren't complaining about the fact that you didn't hear the full vows. I was surprised.
Well, I mean, they did 3. They changed the vows. I think they changed a couple words. They changed one, you know, like from defend to protect or something. Defend to protect the innocent. And then they took out the one about women. And of course, we didn't get 5 and 6. So there should be a vow for each of the non-stranger 7, right? There should be a mother, father, warrior, smith, crone, maiden, right? You should have those 6, and possibly not one for the stranger. Who knows? So, but there should be 6 or 7. In the books, we get 4. Yeah, in the show, we have 3.
In the name of the warrior, I charge you to be brave. In the name of the father, I charge you to be just. In the name of the mother, I charge you to protect the innocent. Yeah, I think there's only 3. It's less. It's less.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it should be, yeah, it's less. It's 3 in the show. It's at least 4 in the short story before Dunk leaves the tent. There's an ellipses, ...
Right.
Implying that there should be more, 2 or 3 more.
How could they do this to you?
Despite what George said on stage. Okay. But
how could they do this to you? His hesitation, by the way, like They could not have made it more obvious.
It's pretty, yeah.
I mean, I'm saying
I
he's
know.
not a knight because he doesn't know the words.
He doesn't know the words. He didn't know the words with Plumber. I mean, the thing is, in the Plumber scene, he also, like, he doesn't know the words. Like, he goes in and he's like, oh, yeah, no, I was knighted and I was charged with, like, protecting the innocent. And, you know, Plumber's like, uh-huh. Like, he doesn't even say it with Plumber. He doesn't even say it right with Plumber. But, you know.
I will say, though...
So it's very clear.
I will say the best changes in this episode from the short story is... Correct me if I'm wrong. In the short story, he actually calls out to a couple of people. He calls out to the Brute of Bracken, who basically says, I know you not, boy. He calls out to, like, Lord Swan and someone else. He's actually calling out to people in the crowd. Here, he's just trying to be like, who will join me? Who will fight with me? And... I like that better. I like that it's quiet, that nobody will speak up for him.
But I will say the individual calling out does highlight how good Baelor is. The fact that he, like, calls out all of these supposedly great warriors, and each of these supposedly great warriors is like, I don't know who you are. Like, you know, I have nothing against you, I just don't know who you are. Which is what Manfred Dondarrion does at the beginning, right? And the fact that, like, Baelor is different. It highlights more that Baelor is different. You know, when he calls out all of these highborn people individually, and then you get the contrast with Baelor. But we don't get that. Yeah. We get the fart. And the thing is, in the short story, the Brute of Bracken is named more, you know, a few times before as, like, this incredible warrior. And so by the time you get to, like, him being called out, you're like, oh, it's like significant thing that he's asking this very honorable, famous knight, courageous knight. And he's just like, nah, you know, no thanks. Instead, it's like, who the fuck is this guy? He's just a dude. Like, how do you know he's the Brute of Bracken? Well, all the subtitles. If I turn the subtitles on, I find out that it's Otho Bracken. Like, that's the only way you know, right?
Yes, because during the show, one of the members of the crowd is like, "That's the Brute of Bracken." That's the only way you'd know, right?
Like, whispered inaudibly, or
the
something.
The subtitles show that's what they whispered, so you'd have to listen in close.
See, an inaudible whisper that you could only pick up by, like, checking out the
subtitles.
The subtitles. But in the short story, he's mentioned several times before, like, you know, because there's a long discussion of all these great, incredible knights that are participating in the tourney, and that's the whole thing. Is that when push comes to shove, all of these knights are not true knights. And Dunk, the not knight, is the one that's moral. You know, like, that's the whole point. That's why it was It was hilarious. Carmine shows me this tweet from this horrible motherfucker on Twitter that was like, it's really great that we get a show that shows, like, knights being good for a change. And it's like, you really fucking missed the point. This is specifically a story about knights not being good and a not knight being the one who's more moral than the knights. Like, that's the whole fucking point. Like, he interpreted the story exactly backwards because he was a fucking idiot sociopath. But okay, that's fine. Anyway, continue on.
No, the best scene, I think, so far in the show, and I think the entire show, since we did watch all the episodes, I love that ending scene where Baelor comes out. It's not really a matter of, like, oh, Prince Valar, because no one really says that. It's like, oh, who's this person? And then quickly he opens up his visor and, I will take Duncan's side. Like, oh, shit, it's that guy. Oh, cool, wow. And the fucking Game of Thrones music.
I mean, to be fair, like, yeah. What's funny is that in the short story, it's not that Prince Valar isn't mentioned, but, like, the big like, oh my gosh, it's Prince Valar. No, it's Baelor. In the short story, doesn't actually work very well because you're like, who is Prince Valar? Because you got to remember, in the short story, they're throwing out names right and left, and you're just like, who is this? This fucking knight, you know, Sir blah 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 broke 5 lances against Sir blah blah blah. And so you're kind of like, I don't know who Prince Valar is. So like him being like, Prince Valar, no, it's Baelor, is like not a great scene in the short story. What's funny is that the show puts a lot more time in showing Prince Valar, but then you don't know it's Prince Valar's armor, you know? You don't really know Prince.
Like even in the comic, someone showed me the comic recently. Like the Targaryen comic, the Targaryen armor in the comics, they all kind of look alike with the exception of like different headgear.
Right.
Valar is quite clearly like three-headed dragon with like wings spread out. So in the comic, like I wouldn't blame someone for going, "Oh, Prince Valar," even the other characters say it, and then it's Baelor. But for the most part, with the exception of Aerion, all the Targaryen armor looks alike. Even Maekar's looks like Valar's armor. So. Yeah. But Aerion's got to be.
Yeah, but it's all like in Dunk's head. Like in the short story, you know, he comes forward and he's like, oh, "The young prince, gods be good. Is it truly him?" Prince Astrid made the same mistake. Prince Valar, and he's like, "No." And then it's Prince Baelor. And honestly, when you're reading, you're just like, "Wait, who's Prince Valar again?" Like it's just not. Yeah. You know, but it's fine. It's fine. I think, like I said, the armor thing didn't work in the short story. The fact that like you just didn't notice or care in the show is fine. It's meaningless, really. You know, like the bait and switch of Valar to Baelor is
in the show. It's meaningless. Who cares? You know, who cares in the show?
It's meaningless in the show, and it's not done well in the short story. So it's fine. Whatever. So that's fine. But yeah, that's about all. I mean, it's a weird episode. So much of it is taken straight from the short story. More than any of the other episodes. More than any of the others.
Preston, I feel like we've discussed both episodes ad nauseum. Do you mind if we wrap it up here?
Sounds good.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us as always. We'll see you all next time. Have a good one.